السلام عليكم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين ربي لا تذرني فردا وأنت خير الوارثين لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Welcome, dear friends. Inshallah, we will continue with our discussion from the Treatise on Independent Judgments. So we're going to start from the third aspect, but a little recap before we go about the what we're doing, inshallah, about the basically about the companions, how important their role was in terms of understanding and relaying to us the hadith narrations that we are benefiting from and really seeing the practical side of Islam to us. So they were the first hand in terms of experiencing during the life of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and then bringing it to us. So, in the first kind of reason that the author was sharing, he says he mentioned that they did a drastic revolution in their life, referring to the companions, and were basically doing whatever pleased Almighty God. So that was the primary purpose in whatever engagement that they were doing, which for us is not really that easy to do in our because we are involved with so many things that preoccupies us in this civilization. But for them, it wasn't a drastic, even though they had their same challenges, but then they dedicated and their whole continuous life into a drastic revolution to realizing, hey, I will just focus on what is pleasing to God. So that how the first one was aspect. And the second aspect was more in terms of the how to reach the closeness to God. So the closeness to God basically not in terms of so there were two ways that the author was sharing basically, right? The first way he said is purely given. It is not acquired, it is how we are as individuals, where as a created needy being, that's what my state is. The other one is to seek God. So one is to attract the mercy of God, which is divine presence comes to you. And the example was given in terms of which helped me in terms of someone looking lost in a city, looking at the maps, and then somebody else passing by realizes, oh, okay, do you need help? Where are you going? And then tells them, hey, you know, without the person asking for any help, somebody else looks at the situation of the individual and says, hey, let me help you. I can help you. Basically, you seem to be lost in your. So that is what the attracting the divine presence basically would mean. So we looked, so somebody, one of my friends suggested that we look at section Abasa from sections 1 to 10, which gives, we can study that right now a little bit. So, A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem. Abasa wa tawalla. So he frowned and turned away. Right? So the narration basically says there was a story that kind of where some person came to the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, and he was involved with somebody else. And he shrugged off the individual because he was busy with something. But then we need to take these verses to ourselves, basically, right? To our life, make it more practical and livable in our. So Abasa wa tawalla, he frowned and turned away. Ana ja'ahul ama, when the blind man came to him. And blind man doesn't necessarily mean physically blind, right? So it may be, but it could also mean many other things, like somebody who's lost, somebody who is not seeing the reality or is looking for some reality. Makes some sense. So there are many meanings that can go in terms of what this blind entails. Brother Ali, you're welcome to comment if you are available, inshallah. Right. So basically, blind man or anybody who is looking for the message, or it could be interpreted in that way as well. وَمَا يُدْرِيكَ لَعَلَّهُ يَزَكَّى. For all you know, he might have grown in spirit. Right? So he doesn't know basically this individual could have made progress in what his as a needy individual who is looking for meaning in life. That's how I can understand it. Grow in spirit. Oh yazakkaru fatanafa'ahu zikra, or taken note of something useful to him. Right? So grown in spirit, take note of something that would be useful in for his purpose in existence to him. Amma man istaghna, for the self-satisfied one, the one who doesn't need anyone, right? Why, right? So فَأَنْتَ لَهُ tasadda, yeah. You go out of your way. So for the one who is self-sufficient, self-satisfied, who doesn't need anything, you go out of your way as if to address that individual who is not really looking for meaning and purpose. Don't waste your time with them, right? وَمَا عَلَيْكَ أَلَّا yazakka, though you are not to be blamed for his lack of spiritual growth. وَأَمَّا مَنْ جَاءَكَ يَسْعَى, but from the one who has come to you full of eagerness. So this is the important part, right? Someone who is full of eagerness expresses their desire, their need to know what the purpose of their life is. Why are they here? Things are just transient, going away. So how to live a meaningful, purposeful life. Wahuwa yakhsha, and awe, but from the one who has come to you full of eagerness and awe, really looking for it. فَأَنْتَ عَنْهُ تَلَهَّى, you allow yourself to be distracted. So basically, don't ignore the one who is actually looking for meaning to come to their attract. So they're someone who is attracting the need for that. They need to be helped in that sense. So just reviewing what we kind of touched upon last time in terms of attracting divine presence, just like the prophet and the companions did to seek divine presence. Would anybody like to add anything to this? All right. So we will continue with the next third aspect. So the companions cannot be reached in regard to virtuous actions and good deeds pertaining to the hereafter, pertaining to the hereafter, because just as in certain conditions in a frightening and important post, a soldier may gain in 1 hour's watch the virtue of a year's worship, and by being hit by a bullet may rise in 1 minute to a station similar to a degree of sainthood, which can only be gained in at least 40 years. So basically, when there is an important mission, certain conditions, in a frightening and important post, and the soldier comes and helps at that, performs his task, it gains very high virtue at that time for that doing that, the virtue of a year's worship, right? So in 1 minute to a station similar to a degree of sainthood which can only be gained in at least 40 years. So too the companions' service, their service in the establishment of Islam and propagating the decrees of the Quran, and their declaring war on the whole world of Islam was so elevated that others cannot reach 1 minute of it in a year. It may even be said that in that sacred service, all their minutes were like that 1 minute of the martyred soldier. All their hours were like the 1 hour's watch of a faithful soldier in some terrifying post, in which the acts are few, but the recompense great and the value is high. So that's the service of the companions for us, basically. Tremendous sacrifice. And indeed, since the companions formed the first rank in the establishment of Islam and spreading of the lights of the Quran in accordance with the rule, the cause is like the doer, a share of all the good works of all the Islamic community passes to them. The Islamic community saying, O God, grant blessings to our Master Muhammad and to his family and companions, shows that the companions receive a share of the good works of their whole community. So, furthermore, just as an insignificant characteristic in the root of a tree takes on a large form in the tree's branches and is larger than the largest branch, and just as the small protuberance at the beginning gradually forms a mass, and just as an excess the size of a needle point at a central point may become more than a meter at the circumference of the circle. Just like these four examples, so something small becomes really expands to something big. Since the companions were from the roots and foundations of the luminous tree of Islam and were at the beginning of luminous lines of the structure of Islam and were from among the leaders of the Islamic community and were the first of their number, and since they were close to the center of the sun of prophethood and lamp of reality, a few of their actions were many and their small acts of service great. To reach their level necessitates being a true companion. O God, grant blessings to our Master Muhammad, who said, My companions are like the stars, whichever of them you follow, you will be rightly guided. And the best of centuries is my century. And to his family and companions, and grant them peace. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are all knowing, all wise. Quran section 2, verse 32. So these are some of the aspects that the author kind of highlighted in terms of the importance of the companions, right? The first one, what pleases Almighty God, so all their actions, their revolution, their life. That's what he focused on. Second aspect was they attracted the closeness to God based on their way they took the message from the prophet and did their revolution in life to for the service of the message, right? And this third one is the all their deeds pertaining to the hereafter. It just expanded because we're benefiting right now from their service in terms of the practical side of Islam, that we are also seeing how the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, lived accordingly, and then we can benefit from the narrations that that come in the Hadith. All right. Any comment on this, or somebody has? What does causes like the doer mean? We see it a lot throughout the writings of this author. So a share basically goes to the one who started it. So just like the Prophet, being a blessing be upon him, started when the revelation came, he started sharing the message and relaying the message to others. So he's the first, and then the companions who were with him also started doing that on that mission. So, and then now that we're benefiting when we say salawat, when we adhere to the message of the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, all all the share goes to the ones goes to the first ones. Brother Ali, please go ahead.
Mainly here two examples are used. One is the soldier fighting on the first front. They are subject to the bullets or whatever, death or possibility of death. But they are there, standing up there. So their value is cannot be a person who, for example, serves the needs of the army members, soldiers. The other example is given here, the root. Root example, or the root of the tree takes a large form in the tree's branches. These are good examples. What I understood that to understand the concept of martyr, because they reach at the level of martyrdom even in 1 minute. When they are killed, that's it. They fulfilled the function. What does it mean for likening companions to a root? I thought of 1 minute of the martyr, the soldier. Yeah, that is everything. Why? Now, if you go and have for example, a visit with a doctor, you may speak to him. If it's a private doctor, give a more practical example. You may have a visit with him, personal and private, not insured. Now, he or she may spend with you 15 minutes and charges you, let's say, some consultants, psychological consultants. I hear that they charge $500 for an hour or half an hour meeting. That is, I heard, I don't know, but really, this is the case. We may say, look, you spent just half an hour and you are asking me for how many hundreds of dollars? Yeah. But do you think we are paying for one half an hour? Or what are we paying for? For half an hour work? Any idea? What are we paying
Or
for?
the content, what is being said and discussed. Yeah.
But we are paying the money for half an hour content or something behind it.
So the value that one gains in that.
What
Right.
the doctor worked to get this quality. How many years? 30 years. You are benefiting from 30 years of labor work. You get it for half an hour, but that's why it costs you this much. For example, some pieces of arts are so expensive if this person is the expert on the art. But he has been working, doing all his exercises, and at the end, he draws a picture in, let's say, 2 hours and charges thousands of dollars for it. You are not paying for 2 hours. You are paying for 40 years of labor. Now, that's another example. But for martyrdom, oh, one person decides, I am going to defend this truth, this reality, this message, so that generations after uh, me, millions of people benefit from it. He stands in the first front and having this background in his understanding, he sacrifices his life. Just, but we cannot say in 1 minute he gained almost next to the prophetic value, the stage or level of the prophets, they are going to be rewarded just below it in the hereafter eternally. But that is the decision to take. Uh, was the not only because he was killed in the defense front, just because his background. Now, for example, let's take a seed example. Seed. One seed, but this is just an analogy. Don't misunderstand. Sacrifices itself, dies. Dies for what? Seed dies for what? In the right condition, for the right purpose, in order to become what? Analogy.
So a shoot plant.
And then huge tree. How many
Mhm.
years this tree lives and gives fruit? How much fruit it gives?
Many years, many fruits.
Thousands of, yeah, maybe really, really. Now, thank you very much, Feria. Tree. So, in order to become a tree, now they didn't just protect their property. They didn't just try to protect, for example, an ordinary person or some country, our benefit of our nation. No, 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 no. They like it, seed dies in order to give shoot to become a tree which will live for years and years and give enormous amount of fruit, and how many people will benefit from them. So can you say which one is more valuable, tree or the seed? Now, in this world where everything is created in an order and something may look like a cause of the result of something now created in this way, and because of the seed you are eating the fruit of the tree, because of the seed sacrificed itself, but this is metaphoric. So sacrificed itself, now we are eating the fruit from the tree. Now, because companions protected the Prophet Muhammad by supporting him, and just because they knew that this message is going to function as a seed, that is protect this seed so that the message will continue. They didn't just try to defend their body, they sacrificed it. So we should understand that not because companions were very knowledgeable. Now, so companions were very brave, valor people. Oh, so companions were really trying to revenge because they were expelled from their hometown. No, 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 no. Companions were trying to protect the message not to disappear, not to disappear, so that it will grow into a tree and we are now benefiting from it. Can you imagine? There was no Quran. Now, can you imagine? And the Prophet didn't have in this causal world, didn't have the opportunity to practice the message of the Quran in a human form. Imagine this. Imagine this. Is it? What are we going to do? I would just say everything is meaningless. Why am I living in this world? What is the purpose? I'm going to die. Why should I bother about anything at all? Why shouldn't I cheat people? Why shouldn't I be just selfish for myself? Why shouldn't I be? There is no hereafter. I'm not going to give an account to anyone. Anything I can get away with, that's fine. And this way of living doesn't give you any pleasure at all. Whatever you do, I'm going to die and disappear anyways. Only through the revelation that we receive the news, we understand the meaning of existence and eternity. So the first generation, because of their being ready to sacrifice their life to defend the message, that is why we cannot reach their level, not because of their knowledge, because of their, I don't know, any other value, worldly value at all. That is why people confuse. They say, companions didn't know much about it, but we know all hadith now. Companions, for example, later joined the Prophet Muhammad والسلام, and really they didn't even know the Quran. What the Quran is really all about. But they say, oh, it's a good thing. You know, this person is really telling something truth. And we must protect him. Why shouldn't we? That intention is unreachable, inshallah. We have to realize the importance of companion at which level and for what. We have to really ask Allah to treat them with mercy, and not every companion died and became martyr. So we have to really have the love, sense of love for them, because they protect the prophet. They also function as the reason to preserve the sayings and actions of the prophet. So we know now, because of this companion's narration, from the Prophet ﷺ reached until our time. This value is priceless. Can you imagine a person who is not really fully satisfied about the truthfulness of the message, a person, and stand so firm to defend the Prophet and his message that he was ready to sacrifice his life in order to protect the message and the Prophet. He was ready to sacrifice his life. Will tell a lie? Can you imagine? About the Prophet deliberately. But in old age, some of them, are started. The Hadith critics, Hadith scholars know them. This person towards his late age started losing his memory and confusing. They know, and they didn't accept his narrations after certain age. If this person is known, they were very, very serious about it. So we have to know that. We have to know that those experts have chosen the hadith narrations, and they were very serious about it. When the narration reaches the companion, they had no doubt about it. If the narration chain reaches the companion, that is for sure the truth. That was the reality. We have to understand all this so that we will have a good faith about hadith narrations. Then we shouldn't say that we don't know. But later on, some political matters involved, but companion, without question, inshallah, we have to have this confidence in us. Thank you.
Inshallah, thank you. All right. Any other thoughts or comments by anyone? Okay, let's move then to the next. All right. So we'll continue. So the question, it is said the companions saw God's noble messenger, peace and blessings be upon him. Then they believed. However, we have believed without seeing him, in which case our belief is stronger. Also, there are narrations mentioning the strength of our belief, are there not? So one may ask this question, that we don't have the physical presence of the Prophet in our time, so but we still believe in his messengership, that he was indeed the messenger of God, whereas the companions saw him physically, right? So they believed accordingly. So that's the question. Basically, he's saying, isn't this belief stronger without seeing the Prophet, although having the message? So the answer, at that time, when all ideas were opposed and hostile to the truths of Islam, the companions believed so strongly, sometimes on only seeing the person of God's messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, and without miracles, that all the generally held ideas in the world did not shake them. Let alone doubts, they did not even cause some of them the slightest anxiety or scruple. So you are comparing your belief with that of the companions. But how can there be any comparison? For despite your seeing with the mind's eye, not the messenger's peace and blessing be upon him, humanity and bodily form. Despite you're seeing with the mind's eye, not the messenger's humanity and bodily form, which was the seed of the tuba tree of his prophethood, but through all the lights of Islam and truths of the Quran, his luminous, magnificent collective personality, encompassed by 1,000 miracles, you waver and fall into doubt at the word of a European philosopher. Yet, due to their belief, the companions did not waver in the face of the attacks of the entire world of unbelief and of the Christians, Jews, and philosophers. And how can you compare the intense fear of God of the companions and their complete righteousness, which demonstrated the strength of their belief and proceeded from it, and your dull belief, which due to your extreme weakness does not impel you to perform even the obligatory practices completely? O you who make such a claim, however, the hadith, the meaning of which is this: those at the end of time who do not see me and believe are more acceptable, refers to particular virtues. It concerns certain special individuals. Our discussion, however, is in regard to general virtue and the majority. All right, so let's go back and see what the question and answer is. So somebody, or it could be us, basically is asking the question, basically. So in the author is sharing, okay, one may have this question within themselves as well. So basically, the companion's close proximity to the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, makes a difference, whereas we don't have really the proximity or the closeness or seeing him physically. But we still are able to convince and see, yes, the message makes sense to us. So our belief is stronger. And then he pointed out one narration, hadith narration that is there, which needs to be interpreted. Those at the end of time who do not see me and believe are more acceptable. It says refers to particular virtues and concerns certain special individuals. Are more acceptable. Yeah, but it's not very clear to me as well. Like those who at the end of time who do not see me and believe me are more acceptable. Doesn't mean that their belief is much more or whatever. So let's go back again. Furry is asking, what's the first part of the question? The part with then they believe in God or the messengership? Basically, whatever the message the prophet is bringing, they just accepted it. They knew that this is something that is not what it was heard of in the civilization. And one of the questions that they always had, but it made sense that, right? However, we have believed without seeing him. Yeah, so the first part is basically the message. If that answers your question. All right. Brother Ali, please go ahead.
Can we go? Yeah, you underlined it. At that time, when all ideas were opposed and hostile to the truth of Islam. Now, can you imagine a person wears this lab cloth, yeah, white, long, and gets some sort of laboratory tools in front of in his hand and says, present something, and people say, look, scientists physically, demonstrating the facts, and they say there is no need to imagine and believe in something mysteriously talked about. There's no sign for it, but what I am saying, witnessed in my lab demonstration. So here it is, I'm demonstrating to you. And by doing this, many people start doubting. I've seen that. Really, it's happening. They're there. It is. There is no need to look for a creator or something. Why do we go into the imagination or imaginative world or mysterious vocabulary saying God, paradise, or something? Where are they? Come on. Not realistic. Then we start shaking. But for example, this lab person is not only demonstrating this and taking a weapon in his hand. If you oppose my idea, I'm going to kill you. How many people are ready to continue his belief? Muslims, I'm talking about. Under the threat of death, and the opposite ideas are there, and companions are ready to defend Islam, the truth of Islam, reality. They are so convinced about it, and they are ready to defend themselves and and the Muslim community, and especially the Prophet and his message. Whoever really paid a pledge of allegiance to the Prophet by saying, I believe that what you say is true and you are the messenger of God. Now, these people, only as far as I remember, I think only one occasion that one of the person uh, who apostate, is it the right pronunciation? Apostasy, left religion, left the Prophet Muhammad and started.
The person is the apostate, right?
Apostate. The pronunciation, my English. So, out of hundred thousands of people, let's put it in this way. One occasion, it was in competitions, something. All of them remained really loyal to the message. We understand, inshallah, that because they were ready and convinced and their faith were not shaken. Their faith were not shaken. Of course, we know that many people, companions, on one of this or other occasions, they also witness miracles, but not all of them. As rightly stated here in the text, is that sometimes on only seeing the person's messenger and without miracles, all the generally held idea in the world didn't shake them without miracles. So it is also important that the companions witnessed the miracles, but not all of them, but they were equally strong to defend Islam. Why? If they were not convinced, why should they risk their life? It shows that they accepted, confirmed, and decided to protect it at the risk of losing their life. What a strong faith it is. Now, if something happens, in the Muslim world, you know what's happening. If there is an administration, Muslim administration, as it happened lately in Egypt, they couldn't really, I'm not defending this kind of political activities. I don't know. I don't understand them, politics. And that's not my cup of tea. So I don't really, I'm not interested in it. But they were Muslims and they were elected by the Egyptian people. That's historically lived and experienced example. And what happened? They couldn't manage the economy properly. And they couldn't really arrange good economical conditions. And the people started losing their financial facilities. What happened? Do you know what happened?
Nope.
Well, they left it. Yeah, military coup took it. Why military coup took it? People supported it. It means we don't want this administration. They were expecting not believe the truth of Islam and believe. No, they were expecting from the Muslims not to steal, not to get bribe, and have a good administration so that their worldly life will flourish, blossom. Worldly life, financial matters. They turned their back. Go and see in a Muslim country, if a notoriously enemy of religion administrator took over the administration, but he managed the country properly and economically, the country really flourishes economically. Do you think this Muslim population will say, we don't want your money, we want our religion? Get out of this state, this status, or being in the administrative power. We want somebody sincerely educates our new generation and teaches us, gives us the opportunity to live according to the requirements of Islam, educate our new generation. That is the most important thing, according to Islamic requirements. Have you ever seen any Muslim population doing that? Have you?
I haven't.
You have not.
Yes, I have not.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Suhail might have. Now, this is, Farah says, no. So, this is what our faith is. Suhail says, definitely not. Now as I was born in Turkey, definitely not. Economy goes bad, religion is not counted at all. But I'm not saying some people are religious and really sincere Muslim. No, they are politicians, cannot be sincere at all. Any kind of politicians. Anybody who is intending to take care of the administration in this age, he wants it himself or herself. This person cannot be serious and sincere. By definition, that's my criterion. Cannot be, because if a sincere person, if the person was sincere, definitely he will say, this person, these people are not looking for really a Islamic administration, because they are just expecting the religious people to be more honest. That is why they elected. The purpose is uh, comfortable life, worldly life. And by the way, our children must be religious. But, for example, if a state comes and starts teaching religion, but doesn't really educate them as engineers, doctors, this word professions, what will happen? See, Muslim community, that is how we are nowadays. We have to be careful who we are, what the Muslim community, in which condition the Muslim community of our time is, so that accordingly I will have my objectives. What am I supposed to do within this Muslim community? What my aim must be to teach mathematics? No, secular people are teaching it. So to teach them how to make more money, secular people are automatically doing this. Anyways, what is missing in this Muslim community? Their faith. They need support in their faith. They don't need information about religion. They need a strong faith. That is the mission, those conscious people waiting to accomplish, inshallah. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Brother Ali. All right, inshallah. Any has any comments or questions? We are approaching time, inshallah. So, all right. All right, so let's go to the second question. They say that the saints and possessors of perfection abandoned the world. It even says in a hadith, love of this world is the source of all error. Whereas the companions were very involved in the world, were very involved in the world. It was not abandoning the world. Some of them were ahead of the civilized of that time even. How is it that you say that even the least of such companions was of greater worth than the greatest saint? So even the least of such companions was of greater worth than the greatest saint. So this is the question being asked. So it has been proved, the answer. It has been proved decisively in the second and third stopping places of the 32nd word that to love the face of the world, which looks to the hereafter, and that which looks to the divine names, is not the cause of loss. To love the face of the world. So this is what the, let's put this underlined. But the means to perfection and attainment. And however far one goes in those two phases, the further one goes in worship and knowledge of God. The world of the companions was in those two phases. They saw this world as the arable field of the hereafter, so concerned about their akhirah, their hereafter, and sowed and reaped it. They saw beings as the mirrors of the divine names and gazed on them yearningly. So, seeing beings as the mirrors of the divine names and gazed on them yearningly. So, yearningly on the divine names. As for the transience of the world, that is its transitory face, which looks to man's base desires. So the author shares this about the two faces of the world. One side which looks to the qualities, the outer aspect and the inner aspect of the things. One looks at the divine names, basically, which looks to the hereafter, and the other looks to the divine names. Is basically the one, if one human being uses his spirit, his awareness, consciousness, feelings, and directs them to look at this other face, that's how the perfection and attainment is obtained. However far one goes in these two faces, the further one goes in worship and knowledge of God. So basically, getting to know and then preparing, it's like a university, arable field for the hereafter. As we always give the example, this universe is like a school to graduate from. We're not going to be staying in the school forever in this world. So we have to learn as much as possible, which is fulfill the purpose of our existence, inshallah. Any comments on this second question or answer? All right, if not, I think it's pretty clear. We are at time, inshallah, so I can stop here unless anybody wants to comment on this. All right, we'll stop. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا على الحمد لله رب العالمين بحرمة سورة الفاتحة. Thank you, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.